Greetings, YouTube. The Doctor is in. Dr. Urias Papers here coming at you with another commentary on Marvel Contest of Champions. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. If you like this video, hit the like button. If you have any questions or comments, please leave a question or comment. All right, it is time for the last installment of our top 10 Awakenings videos. And the last class we're going to do is Mystic. So we got two lists. One list is who should be awakened. Who are the top 10 that should be awakened? And then I take that list and I look at who deserves to get Sig Stones, or who benefits the most from being max signature. Now these lists are the same lists, they're just in different orders because some champions deserve to be awakened, but they don't need Sig Stones, and some champions need to get the best or the most efficient output from them. They need to have a lot of signature levels. So we'll look at, so an example of that thing might be somebody who, when they become awakened, get a Fury that does a lot of damage. They don't necessarily need to be awakened to get that, but they need to be awakened to get the high signature level because that Fury could do a whole bunch of damage. All right, so let's get into the list. Here's the list. So we've got Mystic Champs that should be awakened, top 10, and we've got 4 honorable mentions. So number 1 on my list is Mojo. Mojo doesn't necessarily need to have a whole bunch of Sig levels because he does get this Fury, and the only thing that racks up as he gets higher Sig levels is the damage or the attack rating from that Fury. But what he does get is he starts with more subscribers, and that's really important. So he starts each crest with 1 million subscribers up to 5 million, so he gets to keep them. And then when he wins a fight, he gains another 1 million subscribers. If he loses a fight, he loses 1 million. If he has 5 million and he activates an anti-life field, he also activates a Fury for the duration of the anti-life, which does up to 6,920. And so we've got that here. Where is Mojo at? There he is right there. So there's his signature ability, Big Mojo Energy, and these are crossfight. So that's why it is important to get him awakened, and those subscribers do things while he is fighting. So that's his main shtick. So it's audience adoration. So at 1 million, anytime a buff expires is nullified by the opponent, Mojo heals for 3% of his missing health, so he can actually regenerate quite a bit. When he's got 3 million, when a prompt is complete, gains up to a 50% of a bar of power. That's excellent. And then 5 million, completing a prompt has a 100% chance to play a hater buff on the opponent for 20 seconds. But it's a buff. That's the important thing. It's a buff, and it's a buff that expires. And remember, whenever buffs expire, he has his anti-life on. There's a degen, so you can get if you got 5 million at the start of every fight, and they start getting these hater things that start expiring, they get a whole bunch of degen damage. His damage comes from degen, so that's why you want to have him awaken. Now, the signature ability is not necessarily something that we're going to get into. He is in the top 10. He is number 1 for being awakened. Okay, number 2 is Ebony Maw. So keep in mind, without this, he doesn't get this. So when an opponent misses, they inflict a degen. He inflicts a degen up to 1397 in 1 second. So that's instant. And he does do falters quite a bit. So without this, he doesn't do degen. So falter on opponent, auto block accuracy is reduced by 100%, and Maw gains 40% ability power rate. So let's take a look at him here on Ebony Maw. Ebony Maw, there he is right there. And this was a hard list to do. So there it is. When opponent misses an attack, they're inflicted with a degen. So without being awakened, he doesn't get that. And then the higher sig level he is, the more that degen does. And then he gains an ability power rate while they're faltering, and that goes up to a whopping 40%. So always active, mission from Thanos. He's got missions. He gets persistent charges. And he's got this persuasive voice. Every 20th persuasion, the opponent gains a falter, giving them a 100% chance to miss. And then at 100, they get the black tongue. So that's the big one, is this degen on a miss. So and that's every time they miss. That's a biggie. All right, number 3 is Tigra, and she starts with Primal Sense and Huntress Sense, and so without this, she doesn't get that. So let's see what that does, because those are really important to have. Start the fight with Primal Sense and Huntress Sense, and you can keep it for up to 12 seconds, so that's the SIG ability. It increases the duration of that. And they're down here in the special 1. So whenever you inflict a rupture, you deal burst damage up to 3,308 physical damage based on the number of damaging debuffs on the opponent. And it's increased by 100% during the special attack. So her big shtick is doing ruptures on intercepts and interrupts. And then you also get Huntress Senses, 10% chance for all non-contact attacks from special attacks to miss. Whenever inflicting ruptures or causing opponent to miss, generate 10% of a bar of power. So whenever she gets a rupture, she gets some power. And 10% chance for all non-contact attacks from special attacks to miss. So that's things like power beams and stuff like that. So that's really important for her to start the fight with that, because that means you can start getting ruptures on folks. They do a lot more damage. All right, number 4 is Rintra. So when a neutralized prevents a buff, he gets a power gain of 10% up to 3 stacks, and while unstoppable, he gets some regeneration. So let's look at Rintra. And his whole thing is the neutralize to rupture. That is part of his big shtick. So every time a neutralized prevents a buff, gain a power gain, giving 2 to 10% max power over 10 seconds, or 2 seconds. And while unstoppable, passively regenerate up to 3% of missing health. So, and you can see that he's got, as a 6-star rank 4, he'll have 63,000 health. That's a lot. That's a lot. So, okay. So, he gets these Mystic Charge. Every time an opponent is inflicted with a neutralized buff, gain 1 Mystic Charge. Or when they fail to gain a buff because of neutralize, gain a Mystic Charge. Where is this always act? Okay, here it is. So whenever either champion lands a hit, Rintra has a 60% chance to inflict a non-stacking neutralize. So you keep putting these neutralizes on, and they last for 3 seconds. If the opponent is cosmic or superior, you inflict a passive neutralize, which a 200% potency for 5 seconds. And then you start getting these Mystic Charges when you get the neutralizers. So if you put the neutralize on, and it prevents a buff, you get a power gain. And that lets you get into your special attacks easier. In addition, while unstoppable, and I believe his unstoppable is part of his special 2, maybe? It's in here somewhere. He has a couple. There it is. When Rintra has 10 Mystic Charges, remember you get Mystic Charges every time an opponent is inflicted with a neutralized, gain a Mystic Charge. When you have 10, if either champion strikes with a light attack, you inflict a rupture. Special attacks are unblockable with 10, and with 10 or more, getting struck or blocked by an opponent while Rintra is back to the wall gives him an unstoppable. And then that feeds into that right there. While unstoppable, you start regenerating. So if you get backed into a wall, you'll start to regenerate. Okay, number 5 is Sasquatch. So when Sasquatch goes below 40%, if he gets hit, getting struck has a 70% chance to activate or regenerate. So he's kind of beefy that way. And then while Wrath of Tarnarak is on, passively unstoppable during heavy and special, and opponent's ability combat power rate is reduced by 70, so they don't gain power. So let's look Let's look at him. And without being awakened, he didn't get that. So you get some regeneration if you go below 40%, and then during the wrath, you're unstoppable during special and heavy attacks, and that's pretty annoying too. This one, especially with heavy, is pretty annoying. And when you hit them, they don't get as much power. And so Wrath of Tarnarak, here it is right here. 5 or more rage, Spirit of Rage. So we're looking for that. If you get 5 or more, you have a flat 10% chance to remove all stacks and trigger Wrath. So when you get to 10, that goes up. That goes to 100%. So light attacks have a 30% chance to build Rage. Chances decrease to 100% on the third light attack in each combo. Build 1 Rage every 4.5 seconds that you didn't land to hit. And then each stack reduces incoming damage. So incoming damage plus this regen is really important. And Rage is not ability accuracy. So you need 5 or more, and then when you get to 10, it's a 50%. When you get to 15, it's a 100% chance to go into Wrath. And Wrath lasts for 1.7 seconds per stack removed, so that can last for a while. You gain block penetration and combat power rate. Special 1 and 2 cost 50% less power, and special attack 3 costs 25% less power. And while the opponent has 3 bars of power, special and heavy attacks drain. Okay, so you can actually hit them and stop them from using their special 3. And then in addition, your attacks are unstoppable. Okay, so who is next after that? Longshot. So Longshot gets up to 8. He gets a Nullify ability, and he replaces any buff with bad karma. That's massive. And especially if you're using your special 2 with him, which does damage. It does incinerate damage per bad karma. And then if you nullify a True Strike, unstoppable, unblockable, you gain it, and you gain it up to 7 seconds. So let's take a look at him. Longshot. Here is Longshot. So 18 to 60% chance to nullify any buff and replace it with bad karma. And if Longshot nullifies, blah, 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 he gets it for a certain amount of time. Now, what does bad karma do? Well, for each bad karma, Longshot gains 12% of power generated by the opponent. And whenever the opponent launches a special or heavy attack, all bad karma effects are refreshed. So he gains power when the opponent has bad karma. So you can really do a massive amount of damage. And the other piece of this is the special attack. So the final hit inflicts incinerate damage over 12 seconds. They're fate sealed. It nullifies all buffs. That's good. And each buff and bad karma removed by fate seal, so that's in that second one, combusts and inflicts passive incinerates, dealing. So if you're removing buffs, if you're nullifying buffs with his awakened ability and you're putting bad karma on them, this really stacks up massively. And then instead of inflicting incinerate on the final hit, the incinerate triggers on activation of this attack, and its expiration paused until the attack ends. So it instantly does that damage, and you can see that. I've got a couple of videos out about Longshot, and it's pretty massive. All right, next is Sorcerer Supreme. Let's take a look at Sorcerer Supreme. Right here. So gains a plus 10 to 50% ability accuracy, which is pretty massive. So that's the chance that powers will turn on or abilities will turn on. And the potency of blessing is increased up to 33%. So there's a pre-fight, and there's the blessings. Ruin of Cytorak, Ruin of Ragador, and Ruin of Icon. And then certain things happen when you turn on your special attacks as well. So getting these ruins to increase in potency is pretty nasty. So like Ruin of Cytorak, armor breaks the opponent, and that goes up with the awakened ability. Ruin of Ragador, you regenerate, that goes up. So all that stuff goes up, and it's pretty massive. All right, next is Symbiote Supreme. Put staggers on the opponent more often, which is really important because his kit runs off of those staggers. So, and without it, he doesn't. He just doesn't do it. Every 19 to 10 seconds, place a stagger. He doesn't do that without being awoken. And so he gains less power, and he has this genetic potential. Each time a buff or a stagger effect on the opponent ends, he gains 25% genetic potential. So, again, a lot of his kit is based off of those staggers. And then he gets blessings, too. So for each buff nullified, they take damage. And then he gains some more power. All right, 9th is Wiccan. So he gets his resistance goes up to unblockable attacks from Cosmic Champs, shock immune opponents. For shock immune opponents, shocks become degens instead. And an Incinerate has a 50% chance not to consume shocks. So he's got this thing in his kit where he does shocks and then they get replaced with Incinerates. And this allows you to not have that. So they basically have Incinerates and shocks at the same time. And they take basically double damage. If they're shock immune, the shocks turn into degens. So, he doesn't get that if he's not awakened. And so, for instance, I think it's the special... Yeah. Special 2 inflicts the shock debuff. And that can get converted over to an Incinerate or not with that. Okay, so who are... And then last is Diablo. So Diablo poisons himself, and he takes a lot less damage, which feeds into his ability to heal himself. If you've got suicides on, he heals a lot. So if he takes less damage, then that just basically adds on to his healing, kind of indirectly. And then while the opponent is poisoned, he can poison them pretty easily. He can do he increases his attack rating pretty massively. So let's look at that. Diablo, there he is. And there it is. And so when incoming poison effects suffer minus 100% potency, he's got his Philosopher's Mix. Heavy attacks have a heavy attacks have a 100% chance to put a debuff on, and medium attack 2. The second medium attack has a 75% chance to put a poison on. So that and then once it's on, his attack rating goes up pretty massively. Okay, so who are our honorable mentions here? Honorable mentions are Magic. Now, I put Magic in here because she's only a 5-star. She can't be a 6-star, and that's why I didn't want to put her in the top 10 list. But she has up to a 62% chance to enter Limbo upon reaching a bar of power. That goes up. It's 25% chance for the first bar. It's like 50% chance for the second bar, and it's 62% chance for the third bar. And then this chance is increased by 99 up to 99% based off of Sig level. So the higher Sig she is, the higher chance she's got to go into Limbo. And Limbo resets her health back to what it was before it started, and it also does damage to the opponent. Secondly was Sigil Scarlet Witch. So versus certain champions, she does certain things. So versus Cosmic Mystic Tech, she gets a 20% chance for instability to inflict a Petrify or Armor Break for 3 seconds against Cosmic Mutant Skill. 20% chance for instability to inflict a Power Sting or a Heal Block. And her Petrify can be, and the Sig levels go with the Petrify, Armor Break, or Power Sting for their potency. Juggernaut is next, so his weakness passive that he gets from a debuff is reduced. And then he has a small percent chance to nullify, but that goes up as he gets more unstoppables. He can have up to 10 unstoppables on him. So that could be up to 30%. And lastly, our last honorable mention is Mangog. So each stagger that expires has a 25% chance to cause hatred. So hatred is his thing, and he gets staggers on heavies. And then while unstoppable, he regenerates some incoming damage, and he gains attack rating per hatred and crit damage per hatred. Okay, so our second list in this is who should get high signature levels. So I put Sorcerer Supreme on here, number 1. It is super important, particularly for the blessing potency to be increased by up to 33%. You want those blessings to really be as maxed out as possible. So there's the slow, there is the regen, and there is the armor break. The armor break causes you to do more damage. The regen obviously gets more healing as you block hits. So that's really, really important. And then the ability accuracy part for her to turn on her abilities is really important. Second, I put in here with Symbiote Supreme, you want to put those staggers on as quickly as possible. So high Sig level for Symbiote Supreme is going to do that because that is his main kit. Diablo was number 3 because we want to max out that attack rating while the opponent is poisoned, and we want to be taking a lot less damage to essentially not take any damage hardly at all because of his regeneration. Number 4 was Tigra because we want to keep that primal sense and that huntress sense up as long as we can because her thing is the ruptures. Longshot was number 5. We want to have that nullify chance as much as possible because his kit works on those bad karmas. And we want to be, if we do get an unstoppable, unblockable, we want to keep it for a while. Number 6 was Sasquatch. We want to max out the chance of getting that regen, and we want to stop the opponent from gaining as much power as we can while we're in Wrath of Tanarak. Number 7 was Rintra. So, and this is all based off of that power gain. So we want that power gain to be as high as possible because we're planning on neutralizing a lot of buffs with him. Number 8 was Ebony Maw. He gets damage, essentially. So yes, he needs to be awakened to be able to get to do the damage, but this is why he's number 8, because he does some damage. Number 9 was Mojo. Again, he needs to be awakened to get the ability, but it isn't necessarily super important for it to be very high, but he does get more damage. And lastly is Wiccan. And Wiccan, he gets this when he's awakened, but the only thing he gets from Sig levels is he has an increased chance of not changing Incinerates over to Shocks. So that is what I have for you. I hope that this was informative. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below, and I will catch everybody later.